Hi, I'm Officer David McNealy, host of the West Bloomfield 911 show. This is our first season of the show without Officer Rick, who has retired from the West Bloomfield Police Department. Before Officer Rick moved on, he left us with a message for our department and for you, our viewers. To my friends, my brothers and sisters in blue, co-workers, colleagues, and fellow employees, I bid you farewell as we part and go our separate ways. Many of us will probably not see each other again, for as we know, workplace friendships often end when the job is done. But if you like to keep in contact and stay in touch, my personal contact information remains the same. You will be remembered in my thoughts and prayers. The great Lebanese poet Khalil Gibran wrote, "Yesterday is today's memory, and tomorrow is today's dream." I hope your tomorrows contain more laughter than tears and more joy than sadness. As always, take care of each other, be safe, love one another, for tomorrow is promised to no one. Wishing you all God's peace and love. With warm regards, Rick. Hi, you're watching West Bloomfield 911. I'm Officer David McNealy, and on behalf of Chief Michael Patton and my Deputy Chief Kurt Lawson and my brothers and sisters in blue, I'd like to welcome you all to the show. This is my partner,
Zena, Dailey.
I would like to welcome a very special guest today, Dr. Melissa Oleshansky.
Hello, thank
Welcome.
you so much for having me today.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Doc, hang tight with us for a minute while I flip the show over to Zena for her Daily on the Daily.
Hello, West Bloomfield. Welcome to Daily on the Daily. Let's start with Ask a Cop a Question. This question comes from Joyce in West Bloomfield. She asks, why don't cops read people their rights when they arrest them? So by rights, I'm assuming you mean your Miranda warnings. Well, your Miranda warnings, unlike TV, only need to be read to you when you're in custody and being questioned. So what you see on TV is when someone gets arrested, they read them their rights. When someone's being questioned, they get read their rights. Again, if they're not in custody in real life, what the law really tells us is if they're not in custody and they're being questioned, you actually can question them without reading Miranda. And just because we're arresting you doesn't mean we have to read you Miranda. If we arrest you and then we start to ask you questions, that's when we need to actually read you those warnings. So Joyce, that was a very good question. Thank you. Be like Joyce. Like us on Facebook, West Bloomfield Police Department. Throw a question up there for us, and we'll try to answer your question as well. Moving on, we're going to talk about impersonating a police officer. So this is when someone tries to portray themselves as a police officer to deceive you or to commit another crime. A couple things they could do to do this is they'll verbally identify themselves as a police officer. They could be wearing a uniform, present a badge or a warrant, and lastly, they could be dressing up their car in decals or lights and sirens. If you're on the road and you're being pulled over by a police officer, you're unsure if they really are a police officer. It could be late at night. You're kind of nervous. You don't know if you should stop or not because of stories you've heard. Well, if you have your cell phone with you, call the police department. Put on your emergency light so that if it is in fact a police officer behind you, they know that you're aware they're behind you and that you do plan to stop. That also will bring awareness to people around you, and it might alarm. If it is an imposter, it might alarm them. So it'll catch people's attention. Do not drive faster than the speed you're already driving, and don't drive faster than the speed limit. If you don't have your cell phone on you and you can't call the police department, find a well-lit location if it's late at night, or find a place that has a lot of witnesses. That way, there are other people around you. If something really is kind of off, there's people that can kind of help you out, call the police for you, okay? If you are on the phone with the police department, wait for the dispatchers to tell you when to pull over. So our dispatchers will ask you a couple of questions while they're on the phone with you. What location you're in, what kind of car you're driving. That way they can then relay back to the officers, hey, is anybody trying to pull this vehicle over with this description and this location? If there are, and like I said, you might see more than one officer behind you at this point because they think that you're fleeing, that you're evading them. They don't really know what's going on. They don't know that you're just scared yet. So then they'll be able to tell you, okay, hey, it is safe to pull over. This is one of our officers. And if it's not one of our officers, it might even be another department that we're not aware of at the time. But if it's not and we can't figure out who it is, they'll send another marked patrol vehicle to figure out what's going on, and then they'll also tell you again when it's safe to pull over. You know, so once they tell you that it's safe to pull over, whether it is our agency or not, a couple things might happen. So you might see a high-risk traffic stop. If you ever see what that's like, it might sound scary. It might seem unnecessary to you because you're like, hey, I'm a good person. I'm not doing anything wrong. I was just scared. Because we don't know what's actually going on, we don't know why you're not pulling over, we don't know what's in your car, what to expect. It's really for our safety and for yours. So what will happen is they'll probably stay back behind their cars. They'll give you very loud verbal commands on what to do. Step out of your vehicle, walk back to us, turn your car off, all those kinds of things. Just follow their commands, and once you get back to them and are able to talk to them, you can explain why you didn't pull over and what happened. And we're usually pretty understanding, so if that's the case, you can explain to that I called the dispatch center, and if you don't have your phone, say I was just waiting to find a well-lit location, and that's exactly what happened. And the same will go for if someone comes to your door. So let's just say there's an investigation going on, and a detective's at your door, and they're in plain clothes. You see a badge, you see a gun, but not a uniform, so you're alarmed a little bit. Call the police department. Let us verify that it is one of our officers. And if it's not someone from our agency, we're not aware of why they're at your house, we can send a marked patrol vehicle, a uniformed officer to come out there and check and see who it is, verify they belong to so-and-so police department if it's not from our own. A couple of things you should know about that is impersonating a police officer is a misdemeanor offense if you're not committing another crime. And if you are committing another crime while impersonating a police officer, it is a felony. So that's your daily on the daily. Dave, back to you.
Thanks, Zena. That's a lot of great information that you share with our viewers. We really appreciate all the research that you do. Doc, we're going to ask you to hang on 1 second while we take a short station break. Folks, we'll be right back.
You're watching West Bloomfield 911 on Civic Center TV, a service of the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission. For more information or to watch episodes on demand, visit civiccentertv.com/WB911. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
The West Bloomfield Police Foundation raises money to help those who protect and serve the community. Whether it's emotional or financial support, the foundation provides a helping hand to officers, their families, and those in the community. For more information on the West Bloomfield Police Foundation, contact Kurt Lawson at 248-975-8900 or visit wbpolicefoundation.org.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm David McNealy, and this is my partner,
Zena Dailey.
Dr. Oleshansky. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. You can just call me Dr. O. It's usually what, my folks call me at work.
Dr. O?
Yeah.
All right, well, why don't you tell the viewers how you met me, Dr. O?
Okay, so it was a couple months ago. It was the end of summer. The subdivision that I live in, which is kind of local from here, was having a subdivision party, and I was with my kids. We saw a nice police officer at the party, and my daughter, Jolie, is in 7th grade right now at West Hills Middle School here in Bloomfield Hills School. And she's been really trying to think about how can she be of service and how can she do good, for her school. And at this age, she's just trying to think about how to make more of a difference, in her life and maybe impacting other people. Then we saw you. And I said, hey, let's talk to the officer and see if maybe he can help us with this project. And actually, our family has a really good family friend down in southern Florida, in Boca Raton, Florida. Her name's Laura Reese, and Laura started actually a program called Samaritans 365 in the year 2008. She started this one free program for her kids' elementary school, really with the intention of starting a conversation with the kids about kindness and gratitude. And
so is that an anti-bullying?
So she didn't really want to kind of coin it as anti-bullying, and it's not an anti-bullying program. It's a kindness program. Okay. And which is, I don't know, I think it's an amazing opportunity to bring awareness more into positive thinking, right, positive awareness, how to talk to each other in a nice, positive way. Mm-hmm. In my experience with my kids, I have a 10-year-old Brody who's in 5th grade, 7th grader Jolie who's in 7th grade, and all through our schooling in Bloomfield Hills schools, lots of information about anti-bullying. Now there's OK, to say program about mental health.
And we have team that's also
and then
in
there's
the
team.
schools also.
Hence why we saw you at the picnic, and we
Right.
thought we would talk to you to see, because I was actually at Jolie's school when the other team member retired and introduced
Officer
you.
Rick Trabolsi, that's right.
Correct. And so, knowing that you were going to be in the schools, I was thinking, how can we team up with a big, strong police officer? And
You
then,
guys hear that? That's me.
right? But maybe to not just necessarily like have maybe scariness associated,
Sure.
with a uniform, and same thing with bullying, and even the word anti-bullying or no bullying. Those are like negative words.
Right.
Hence, Samaritans 365 program is all about how to promote kindness, and not only kindness with oneself, but how to be kind to other people.
So when you and Julie were talking to me then, of course, I have to let the viewers know that obviously as police officers, we get asked a lot of questions, and people come up and they ask us different things, and they appear to be passionate about things at times when they talk to us, but it's whether or not they follow up. So what led me back to Dr. O was the fact that I exchanged information with her. I gave my department email, and she actually followed up on it. And once she followed up on with the email that I received, I looked into Samaritans 365, and at that point I had to go to my direct supervisor at the time. I had to go to Eric Tilley, who's our lieutenant, and explain to him what this is about. And so I talked to him about you briefly, and then I told him what it was about, and I told him I was passionate about it also. And it's our community brand. If you know anything about our department, our chief and deputy chief, we're very community orientated. So I was passionate about it, so I went to my lieutenant, and he was all for it. So it's a great thing.
Which is just a wonderful, thing to know that we've now maybe have the police department or West Bloomfield, that maybe the city of West Bloomfield involved in this too. Let me just get back to, Southern Florida, one mom started one program. It's a free program open to everybody. There's, it's open to all religions, all genders, all ages,
Is that
all
Laura?
colors.
Is that Laura?
This is Laura,
Okay.
Laura Reese in Southern Florida. And from one school, over the course of 5 years, it has now grown to over 50 schools, getting close to over 80 schools in 7 different states. And so when Jolie heard about this too, thinking, okay, what can we do here? Thinking the success in Southern Florida, why not bring it here? Then we saw you, and then we're thinking, hey, if we can get maybe a police officer or get more community involvement going, then maybe we can start spreading it here in the state of Michigan. What we did also, Jolie and myself, and my son, is showing a great interest too, and that's actually the whole key of this. Starting to have a conversation about kindness and gratitude, and hopefully it's just so magnetic that other people feel it.
Right.
And so, Brody, he just printed out a whole list of kind acts he wants to do every single day of the week, and it's just, it can be very infectious. But what we did actually, even before we met you at our summer picnic, was Jolie and I wrote an email in the summertime to our school principal at West Hills, Principal Dureka.
Yeah, good guy.
Yeah, he's a incredibly nice guy, and the nicest thing about him that I've noticed actually from all the administrators at school, because I also reached out to different teachers too. Everybody replied back to me like within a few
amazing.
hours
That's amazing.
or
That's great.
within one day.
That's great.
I was just shocked and blown. At West Hills, middle school, just they were just so incredible and so generous and welcoming into how can we support our community, how can we bring more kindness. And really, my proposal, to Principal Dureka and some of the teachers too, Mr. Raines is actually one of the 5th grade teachers who's taken on as welcoming his classroom. He actually runs a leadership program for grades 4 and 5. And so we're trying to join with the leadership program there and integrate Samaritans 365 and what that brings to it.
And that's some of the flexibility we have as being a team instructor. You can change the curriculum to flex the schools. So what I intended to do after we met was get with the schools and try to integrate 365 and keep some of the team aspect of what I've been trained on also, but touch more about 365.
So Samaritans 365, once again, it's a free program open to anybody. We're going to try to have it start with, grades 4 or 5 at West Hills. Hopefully it will span to the upper, middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th. We want to go to every single school in Bloomfield Hills, West Bloomfield. We want to go from community to community, and I mean, we just want this to explode in the state of Michigan. And what it is about once a month, and there's some flexibility about the frequency, but about once a month, we're going to try to invite different members from different philanthropic organizations or nonprofit organizations, where they'll come, they'll talk to the students and tell them about their organization, how they're of service, and then hopefully can stimulate a conversation amongst the students.
So Mr. Raines has been accommodating because it's your leadership. It's a leadership class, right?
So in West Hills, they've actually had leadership clubs. They have a variety of clubs just so they can get kids involved in all different things, just to help empower them to be fantastic students. And a leadership club is one to try to promote, kind of individuation and autonomy and build self-confidence and leadership. And then we're trying to now invite, with Samaritans 365, to have organizations come to talk about the organizations, to not just help kids feel self-empowered and good and leaders, but we want to help them think about kindness,
Right.
How to talk about kindness, how to be grateful. And the reality is I'm a working parent too. I have a day job.
We want to touch on some of that stuff
wait.
too.
Let me just throw this out though, because even I come from a family of 2 working parents, and and there's lots of families in our community and the surrounding communities that have parents that are home or working, and you don't know how often at home there's conversations about how to be kind, how to
Right.
talk to others. And while of course we would love every family, to talk about this at dinner, and every family to eat dinner together
Right.
every single night, because the research shows that people, feel better about themselves, do better in school, have better sleep habits, have less mental health issues when they have a stronger family, cohesion, and eat dinners at home together. But what's the conversation at home? Are they talking about kindness? Are they talking about how to be grateful for the day? What was the best part of the day? Do they have these conversations?
This is all great, but how did you get all this knowledge and everything that you just told us and our viewers? What is your background? Tell the viewers what your background is that got you where you are, and you're so
once upon
knowledgeable.
a time, about 44 years ago, no, just kidding. No. But I went to Michigan State. I studied psychology.
So you're happy about the game that we just saw a couple weeks ago, right?
I'm actually really happy.
Yeah.
I was at a Michigan State party with somebody who is a big Michigan
Sorry,
fan.
you've been fans. Sorry.
But so I studied psychology in undergrad, and then I went into a graduate program for school and community psychology and educational psychology at Wayne State University. But I kind of knew I just wanted to do something in clinical psych and health psych. I was really getting into exercise and yoga and fitness and health promotion. And so I found an APA, American Psychological Association, accredited Ph.D. program out in California. And I actually found one in Boston. And coming from Michigan, I was thinking, do I go to California or do I go to Boston? And I decided to be done with my winter boots, and I went over to California. And so I studied clinical health psychology there. And actually, I never even told you this because, Officer David and I, talk every now and then. But I worked for the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department for a period of time. I did a year internship there as...
I don't know that you told me that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
So, yeah, it was cool.
And you also you also teach yoga in the township?
So in California, while I'm in my PhD program, they have yoga studios, like we have gas stations.
Yeah.
And so I knew, studying health psychology, that I wanted to incorporate just something more, whether it was alternative care or some sort of holistic care, biofeedback, and then yoga was just, I found it to be really helpful for stress management, for focus for school, for overall good health. And so I decided while I was working on my graduate studies that I would also become a certified yoga instructor out there, spending a couple weeks in Santa Barbara, California.
Why not?
It was kind of nice,
Sounds
right?
like rough duty.
Right. And then sure enough, I met a guy out there who's actually from Michigan. And so, we kind of fell in love and decided to move back home because this is where family's at. And then so I just knew with my future of doing clinical work. I wanted to do yoga also. And so I now teach yoga on the weekends at the West Bloomfield Yoga Shelter. And then I do clinical work at an outpatient mental health clinic in Rochester Hills during the week.
You're also a professor.
So
Do you ever stop?
I teach
there's
too.
a lot going on here.
Why? You know why? I'll tell you why. Because I feel like education and encouraging people and talking to people, guiding people, that's what I do all day long, whether it's in my clinical practice, whether it's with yoga or, teaching, it's a psych course that I teach at college. I want to influence people, and hence I think that's where my daughter got this too. How can I make a difference?
Right.
And every single day I tell the kids, be happy, be kind, share good energy with people. And so, we talked to, Principal Dureka. He's our first principal in the whole state of Michigan who's approved us to bring in Samaritans 365. Once again, we're hoping West Hills is the first middle school that just kind of leads the way.
So let's segue into that.
Okay.
You're talking about 365 and Jolie. There's something special about you, Jolie, and myself with Samaritans 365. Why don't you tell
So
the
in
viewers?
order to start Samaritans 365, it's now a standardized program. And Laura from Florida, who developed this program, has developed this standardized training program to become a Samaritans 365 ambassador. And in order to get a program in the schools or in the community, you have to go through the training. It's a couple hours. It's online. It's an easy program. There's a small fee for it, but I was actually the first certified ambassador in the state of Michigan. Jolie kind of followed up. She's now a certified junior ambassador. We chatted with you, and we're very proud of you, Officer David.
That's right.
You're our third, certified ambassador.
And we're hoping it catches fire. So it's
So, you were saying that you say as a family, and that's what brings family together, what helps kids. And so I asked my kid, what did you do at school today? And I asked specific questions. What book did you guys read today? Who did you play with at recess? Do you think it's just as important to ask them, what one kind thing did you do today? Like, do you think that would promote that?
Absolutely. And that's actually how I start the day, by dropping them off at school. And I say to them, do one nice thing for somebody today, right? And at this age, because you have younger kids too, right? And at this age, we have to prompt them.
Yes.
And hopefully at this age, as we continue to encourage and or prompt, this will become habitual for them. And then when they move on in life, high school and beyond, this will be just part of their, just
natural,
organic, nature and part of who they are, a true sense of authenticity for them.
Right.
And that's what hopefully, like with Samaritans 365 does also, by bringing in service workers of, nonprofit organizations where the students can learn about how to be of service, to be part of the community. This will just become second nature to them, and they won't feel like, well, okay, I need to do, I don't know, community service if you get in trouble with some police officers. No, right? Actually, and I work with a lot of people in my clinical practice that actually come to me after they've had some run-ins, with you folks, and have to do community service, but they shouldn't have to be people in our world. We shouldn't have to be forced to do it. This should be part of us. And if
it becomes part of the culture
of
our how we raise our children or how they interact in school.
Right.
So it's a big deal.
And then our whole world will change, and we won't be seeing terrible, terrible images on the TVs in the morning with the news. And, there's bad stuff and bad people in the world. And if we can shift conversations in our schools, in our homes, in our communities about being kind, being grateful, how can we be of service? And this is even like as a yoga teacher too, right? It's part of karma yoga, how to be of service.
Plus, you teach your kids at a young age. Like, my kids are 4 and 6, and they're proud to tell you what good thing they did, that they were good because, the teacher gave me an award for so-and-so. So you're right. I feel like you teach them young, and then it just becomes second nature. It's just natural for them.
Right.
Something that I think is hugely important. I'm in uniform when I go to the school to West Hills, because kids either look at you with fascination or with fear. And so I like the fact that I'm able to break that barrier down and talk to them about being kind and things of that nature. And so to me, it's a big deal when they see us in this environment versus, when we're pulling someone over or having to do something else, in the function of our job. So it's a big deal to me that we're able to do that. It's our brand.
But if you
anyway.
think about it too, I mean, you folks are here to protect us, and if you pull us over, which I'm a good driver. No. But if you, right?
Do we believe her?
But if you pull us over, if there's an issue, that you come to us, I would hope and I would assume, because I don't get pulled over that often, so I don't know, but I would assume that you also kind of coach us and teach us, what are we supposed to be doing?
Right.
And I'm hoping also with you, Officer David, if you come into the schools with that team program and talk about maybe some issues that go on in the community, to also invite the conversation about, well, if that happened, how could we shift it, or how can we avoid it? Because if we're carrying ourselves in a very I guess I'm going to say kind. I don't want to just kind of keep using this word, but I think it's an easy word for us to understand.
Right.
A kind way, a vigilant way, an aware way, an observer. And how can we just make the world a little different? And then, not that I'm trying to get you guys out of business, but if the world was a kinder place, hopefully we don't have
I don't
to
think
have.
we'd fight
We all
that.
want that.
We'd all want
that,
an easier.
Right.
We'd all want an easier day, and all you're saying is to make our lives, all of us, easier.
Right.
What are the next steps for 365? Like, what do you and your daughter have to do next, and how can other schools get involved?
Thank you so much for asking. So, really, we're trying to encourage all administrators or PTO members, to jump on to Samaritans365.org, to look at the website to see how we can maybe include this into the curriculum or in an after-school program at West Hills Middle School. We do it actually in the morning because that kind of works in our schedules.
Right.
It's about, I don't know, an hour or so.
Is it during school hours?
So, like for us, we meet, 45, 50 minutes before school starts, so the kids get dropped off, the parents, drop the kids off so the parents are aware that this is going on also. We've had even a newsletter out in our community kind of bulletin that Principal Dureka writes and included some information about it. And so to go on there and to hopefully become a certified ambassador. The key here, though, is if people are feeling more kind, I'm feeling like there's going to be less bullying. If there's less bullying in the schools, and we all know that that's an issue, if there's less bullying, then in my world of mental health, we'll have less mental health problems.
Doc, we got about 1 minute left. Before we say goodbye to our viewers today, tell them in a few words, just like you've been sharing with us now, why it's so important just to be kind.
Okay, it's so important to be kind because we want people to feel good about themselves. We want people to grow up in a very healthy way. When we're feeling good and confident, we're going to have less stress, less depression, less anxiety, and we're going to be able to live beautiful, productive, purposeful lives.
Doc, thanks a lot. We really appreciate you being on.
My pleasure.
Today.
My
Thanks so
pleasure.
much.
Thank you so much.
Guys, you can keep up with us by liking us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. You can also sign up for Nexel.com, or you can even get crime mapping for the most up-to-date information. Thank you guys for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.